Hello and good night. Welcome to another bedtime story. This story is meant to help you sleep or to relax your mind. Try and find a comfortable place, such as your bed or a soft chair. If you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes now. Try and let go of the day as we begin our tale. Tonight's story is Littleidasflowers. In the tall house at the end of the linden-lined street, where ivy grew up the stone like green lace, there lived a girl who barely spoke. Her name was Ida. She moved like a shadow, slow and soft through the quiet rooms. The clocks ticked and talked. The wind lifted lace curtains. The teacups remained empty. Someone had used to laugh in this house. That someone was no longer there. Ida didn't cry, not often, not out loud. It was more like her tears had become invisible, not falling from her eyes, but gathered in the tightness of her throat, the heaviness in her chest, the stillness of her hands. She felt them most when looking at beautiful things, like the vase of pale blue flowers that sat on the windowsill. They were her favorites, but even they had begun to bow their heads. "Why are they sad?" she asked one late afternoon. The voice startled even herself. She hadn't meant to say it out loud. "Well," said someone behind her, "they're tired from dancing." Ida turned. There stood the student. He was staying for a little while, just passing through, someone had said. She wasn't quite sure who had invited him. He wore a coat that looked too big for him, and glasses that slipped down his nose. He seemed like someone drawn in from a dream. "Dancing?" she asked. "Oh yes," he said, sitting on the windowsill as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "At night, when the moon is high and all the clocks are sleeping, the flowers get up and go to the ball, even the tulips. Especially the tulips, actually. They're terrible gossips." Ida blinked. She wasn't sure if she was meant to laugh. The student leaned forward, conspiratorially. "They dance in the gardens and in the conservatory. Sometimes they even sneak out of the garden in single file. Other times they vanish in a gust of wind. That's why they look so droopy in the morning, exhausted, all of them, but happy." "Do they come back?" she whispered. "Always," he said, "unless someone forgets to love them." That night, Ida lay in bed with her blanket pulled up to her chin, eyes open wide and dry. The student's voice echoed in her mind like wind down a stairwell. "Unless someone forgets to love them." She turned her head towards the windowsill. The blue flowers were there, drooping softly. She had tucked a scrap of lace under their vase, like a little tablecloth, unsure why. It just felt right. She slipped out of bed. The wooden floor was cold beneath her feet. In the doll's room, in a narrow cupboard with a curtain for a door, she found the tiny bed with its frilly pink blanket. She sought it out, careful not to wake anyone, and placed it beside the window. Then, one by one, she took the tired flowers from the vase, shook off the droplets from their stems, and laid them down gently, their petals touching like hands. "There," she whispered. "You can sleep now. You don't have to dance tonight if you're too tired." But in her heart, she hoped they would. She climbed back into bed and listened. The wind tapped at the windows. The grandfather clock in the hall gave a single sigh of a chime, and somewhere in the walls, old wood creaked like a memory stirring. Then, from the windowsill, she heard the faintest sound, like silk brushing across stone. A rustle, a murmur. Ida sat up. The doll's bed was empty. The flowers were gone. And, standing in the moonbeam, was a daffodil, bowing low with great ceremony. Its petals glowed like candlelight. "If you would care to join us," it said in a voice like a cello string, "the ball is about to begin." The hallway had changed. The house was the same, and yet it wasn't. Shadows moved differently. Paintings turned their heads when she passed. The walls had deepened in color, as if moonlight painted them in indigo and pearl. The daffodil led the way, followed by 2 tulips in matching crimson cloaks, whispering behind their leaves. A snowdrop rode in a teacup like a boat, pulled by threads of spider silk, silver in the moonlight. Ida followed, not questioning. Her bare feet made no sound on the floor. Her breath came soft and slow, like she was walking inside a dream she had once forgotten. They led her through the long parlor with the velvet chairs no one sat in anymore, through the dining room where the great chandelier had been covered in cloth since winter. At the far end, the doors to the conservatory were open, and beyond them the garden bloomed. No longer dark, no longer winter-bound, the garden was lit from within. Lanterns hung like stars from the lilac trees. The grass shimmered with frost that didn't bite. And there, oh there, they danced. Roses twirling with wildflowers, violets in velvet, a peony with a crown of ivy, poppies laughing too loudly, orchids whispering secrets, each one in motion like ribbons caught in the wind. Ida watched, eyes wide, chest rising slowly. Something lifted inside her. Not all the way, not yet, but enough. Then a rose turned to her, not the most beautiful rose, not the biggest. Its color was a soft pink, and it wore no jewels. "I know you," said the rose. Ida stepped forward. "You do? You used to bring me sunlight in your hands, warmth from your heart. I bloomed for you then." The voice was soft and kind, familiar, like the sound of a lullaby hummed behind the door. Ida didn't ask if it was her mother. She didn't need to. The rose reached out one velvet petal and touched her cheek, and for the first time in a long while, Ida let herself cry. The music in the garden softened, not music made by instruments, but by something deeper, a music made of wind through petals, of old memories, the rhythm of growing things, of things that bloom and fade and return. Ida sat beside the rose for a time, her tears falling without shame. No one stared, no one minded. The daffodils danced on. The crocuses skipped rope with ivy vines. The bluebells chimed the hour, some ancient, moonlit hour that didn't belong to the clocks. The rose said nothing more. It didn't need to. It stayed close, its presence warm and still. Then, the first edge of dawn brushed the sky in pale pinks, and the mood began to change. One by one, the flowers bowed, curtsied, and sighed. They thanked their partners. They gathered their leaves and let their petals fall gently back into their usual shapes. "We're tired now," whispered a violet, slipping into a walnut shell as if it were a bed. "So much beauty needs rest," murmured a marigold, yawning, shaking dew from her hem. The rose stood and turned to Ida. "It's time for us to go." Ida nodded. Her throat was tight again, but this time in a different way, not from grief, but from the feeling that something real had touched her, and she didn't want to let it go. She helped gather the wilted dancers. Some nestled into her hands, others climbed into her pockets, already curling inward, like dreams about to sleep. Back through the shadowed house they went, less strange now, more familiar. The parlor sighed as they passed, as though it had been holding its breath. The halls no longer echoed so hollow. In her room, Ida tucked the flowers back into the little doll's bed. She straightened the lace. She kissed one sleepy daisy on its fading petal. "You can rest now," she whispered. "You were so beautiful." Then she crawled into bed and didn't remember falling asleep. She awoke to sunlight, the real kind, warm and golden. It spilled across the floor, touched the corners of her furniture, and landed squarely on the windowsill. The doll's bed was there by the window. The flowers were wilted, yes, but gently, like dancers in repose. The blue petals were scattered, like notes on a page. The student was sitting at the edge of the windowsill again, sipping his tea. He looked over his glasses at her. "You're awake," he said. "You missed the sunrise. It was particularly fine." "I saw something else," she said quietly. He raised an eyebrow. "Oh?" She sat up. "They danced." He didn't laugh. He didn't even smile in a teasing way. He only nodded and said, "Of course they did." And, for the first time in many days, Ida smiled. A true smile. A small one, yes, but it fully belonged to her. That afternoon, she opened the curtains in the parlor. She brought in a new vase of flowers. Then she went and asked the cook to help her bake honey biscuits. Later, the student told her, "The world is full of strange things, Ida. But sometimes, when the world feels very far away, it's the strange things that bring it back." Ida nodded. She didn't mind the strangeness anymore. It had given her something real. The house still held silence, and the clock still ticked. But the lace curtains danced a little more in the wind, and the teacups did not remain empty, and the flowers, oh, the flowers, were never forgotten again. The end. Thank you for listening to this bedtime story. I hope you enjoyed the tale tonight. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more audiobooks and tales to come. Until next time.